We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hey, it's Justine.
Hi, it's LJ.
And it's me, Meg.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes. And it's me, LJ, hosting for the first time in a hot minute, and I'm very excited about it. So welcome back as we continue our Rick season of life. In this season, we've been covering a selection of episodes from Sweet Heat with Rick Martinez, which is a Food 52 YouTube series. And it's where Rick brings us recipes built on his favorite flavor profiles, sweet and heat, from his kitchen in Mazatlan, Mexico. And this is our final video review episode of this season. So I, for one, can't wait to get stuck into that Sweet Heat Rick goodness. But before we do, let's find out what we've been cooking and eating and generally just making mischief in the kitchen. I'm going to throw to Amanda. Any kitchen mischief for you?
I actually made something sort of.
Hooray!
It was minute rice kind of stuff. Like I heated it up in the microwave it was jasmine rice, and then I added some balsamic vinegar, like a tablespoon of butter, and a little bit of chipotle pepper hot sauce, just to add a little spice. So a little sweet with the balsamic, a little hot heat with the chipotle, and I ate that a couple times this past week for dinner.
It was your own sweet heat.
Yeah, it was. I feel like that's like a round the world dish. Like it's like jasmine rice from Asia, like the balsamic from like Italy, and your chipotle from like Latin America somewhere or Mexico.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was delicious, and I was like, oh my god, Justine's gonna be so proud. I did something in the kitchen.
I think we're all proud.
You did it. We're all proud.
As I said your name, what about you, Justine? What have you been up to? I know some things. I got a preview picture.
It's true. There's been quite a bunch of stuff, especially since we haven't recorded in a few weeks.
We had a sneaky break.
Yeah, we did take Memorial Day weekend off. I actually went to San Francisco that weekend, did a little travel up. I would like to shout out one particular restaurant I ate at called Greens, which is a vegetarian place with lots of vegan and gluten-free options. And it was like fancy. It had a fancy brunch right on the water. Like, it was so delicious. And I got something covered in pesto, of course. On the home front, I made a couple things. One was Jessie Sheehan's peanut butter cookies from her Snackable Bakes cookbook. I did veganize them and made them gluten-free to much success.
Nice.
And then also I made a chocolate ganache and cherry tart from Bakerita, which is also vegan, gluten-free, but that stuff, her website is gluten-free stuff. So it was my first time making a tart. I bought a 10-inch tart pan with a removable bottom, and it came out perfect because I am a baking expert now.
No soggy bottoms for you.
No soggy bottoms at all. It was just pure deliciousness, and it was a nice, like, solid, you could just even like pick it up and eat it like a pizza kind of tart, you know?
Nice. How do you make a ganache like vegan?
Well, basically it was just melted chocolate and coconut milk.
Coconut milk, of course. Yeah.
So it was yummy. It was very yummy.
That sounds amazing.
So what about you, LJ? I actually told a coworker of mine about your mac and cheese baby food because they recently had a baby, and they themselves was like, I'll never be able to cook again like I once did.
Well, I recommend, if they were into cooking pre-baby, then I do recommend the baby-led weaning approach, because as he's now like sort of weaned. Well, he is weaned, but he's over 1, so you do sort of have to keep an eye on salt and sugar and stuff, but it's not as crucial as it is pre-1. He can basically just eat what we eat, and I swear, because we never did purees, he just always ate like real food, just prepared in age appropriate servings. He's just never been fussy or bit phased by any kind of new food, really. He'll try anything once. Like, he goes through normal, like, picky, like at the moment he's really not into broccoli, whereas it's never been a problem before, but that's just normal toddler behavior. But yeah, I really like it because it means we can just sort of batch cook something that we would eat, and then he'll just have a little bit of it, so that's good. So yeah, on that note, I made shepherd's pie for him, which was the first time he'd had shepherd's pie. He's had like components before, like he's had mashed potatoes before, he's had like mince, like ragu type sauce before, but never like together. So I was a bit like, oh, not sure how he's gonna do with it. Maybe he'll like just throw it on the ground and be like, no, this is awful. But I was pretty confident because they were both two familiar like components that he'd be all right, and he was, and he really liked it, and he ate like loads for a small child. He's recently discovered where his belly button is, and he thinks it's hilarious to like push it and make a noise. And when he'd eaten his shepherd's pie, his stomach was so round because he'd ate so much of it, he couldn't see his belly button anymore, and it really confused him. So I take that as a sign of a good meal.
Still have to work on that object permanence, I guess.
I just want to see like a video of your child finding his belly button now.
It's very cute. It is very cute. I can't lie. I know I'm biased, but So Meg, how about you? What have you been up to?
I also did a little bit of gluten-free cooking. I made a gluten-free carrot cake by one Chris Morocco, who you may remember.
How could we forget?
It's basically it's basically your standard carrot cake, but instead of regular flour, you use almond flour. I've never made a gluten-free cake before. It didn't rise as much as a normal cake would, or sorry, as a gluten-full cake would. I didn't mean to say normal. But I think that's to be expected without that extra leavening of the wheat flour. So it was a little bit flat. I sort of expected it might be. It tasted great. Really, really good. I made it for a birthday party, and it was a huge hit. Everyone ate almost all of it. I didn't have very many leftovers, which was a little sad for me. But the thing that I really liked about the cake was the cream cheese frosting. I always like cream cheese frosting. There was something about this recipe that was super good. It also had Greek yogurt in it. And I wondered if maybe that was like the secret ingredient. I'm not sure if other cream cheese frostings do or don't typically have Greek yogurt, but this one did, and it was really good.
I don't think, well, I don't know if I have a few baking books that involve cream cheese frostings, and when I've done them before, it's usually just been like cream cheese and sugar, like that's it. So I would imagine, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd imagine the Greek yogurt gives it it's me trying to be American. Greek yogurt gives it like a lighter kind of sort of feel to it. I don't know. It
was very fluffy, and also you whip it for a very long time to get a lot of air in there. So it's very light, fluffy, spreadable. It was good.
Great. Okay, so on the menu for today's episode, we have Huevos Rancheros with Chorizo and Porky Beans. And we'll also be talking about You Won't Believe Their Vegan Carnitas Tacos. Okay, so our first dish will be Huevos Rancheros. And that's right, Rick's making one of our all-time brunch favorites, Huevos Rancheros. His sweet heat spin uses spicy chorizo and plenty of serrano chiles to give his salsa a fiery kick. And the sweet comes from a bonus recipe, a Jamaica or hibiscus syrup that makes a great base for mocktails, cocktails, or mimosas. He's also got 2 methods for making your own tostadas. Great. I'm hungry already. How about you guys?
Something we discussed in previous episodes, I don't know if it's just been our random selection of which videos to cover, but this is, I believe, the 3rd or 4th video where there's not a sweet component in the main dish itself, which I think is kind of funny for a video series called Sweet Heat.
I did think that was funny, yes.
I like that this started with him being dared to drink lard, and he was like, yeah, of course, it's delicious.
Easiest dare ever.
Would you drink lard?
I love Huevos Rancheros. I think that overall this looked like a pretty easy recipe to make, especially if you use his tips. He suggested, like, you can use canned beans. You don't have to make your own tortillas. You could even get pre-made tostadas in some places if you wanted to. And I also enjoyed this because I think it would be easy to make vegetarian. Just instead of lard, use vegetable shortening or olive oil or any other vegetable oil. And, you know, leave out the chorizo or maybe use soy rizo or something. So I would happily make this recipe.
Can we discuss beans just generally? Because, like...
Who are you, Carla?
No, I don't know. I'm on the opposite. Well, I just don't understand why anyone would, like, ever make them from scratch, because, like, they're so cheap in a can. And to make them from scratch, they're just such a lot of faff. Like, until he said the thing that... like as a shortcut, it would be perfectly fine to get them from a can. As soon as, because he didn't say that until sort of towards the end. So at the beginning, when he was like, right, so we start with these beans that I've made, and I was like, right, so the recipe begins with you having to complete a recipe before you've even started. Like,
yeah, just start with 4 hours of work before actually making the Huevos Rancheros.
Like, I'm not about to make a recipe and then refry them. And they're so cheap in a can. Like, I just don't understand why you would go, it's just faff. I'm not about the faff. I mean, maybe it's just now that I've got less time. Maybe, like, pre-pandemic, LJ would have been like, oh, great, let me spend 4 hours with some beans. I can't think of anything better before I get started on this breakfast recipe. But, yeah.
Yeah, especially for breakfast.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, I feel like there was a phase in there that was like, everyone should make beans now. You know, it was sourdough, and then it was whatever, and then it was beans. And I did fall prey to that. I was like, oh yeah, I love beans. I could make beans from scratch. And so I did also buy some very bougie beans that were in at the time. They were Corona beans from some online store called something Ranchero. I don't even remember. I swear it was just coincidence that they were called Corona beans. But anyway, I did the whole soaking overnight. I cooked them for literally about 4 hours. And then the end result was fine. It was definitely not worth the effort to me.
It's not worth it, is it? It's not worth it.
No.
And I imagine, like, the amount of, like, lard and flavour that you pile in when you refry them, you don't just get them from a can. Like, it will taste just as good. Let's not pretend we've got time to make our own beans. It's silly.
But apparently the older you get, the better your beans get, Rick says.
Well, maybe all old people have got time. They've, like, got more time to, like, nurse them to perfection.
Well, I'm just Googling now what is Huevos Rancheros. I'm like, hi, I'm from
You're from
New
LA,
England, so-
Justine. I'm disappointed in you.
I've just, the whole time I've lived in LA, I've been vegan, so that's been an issue.
Yeah.
So there are definitely some blind spots to my, especially as we've been covering this season, like Mexican food, for sure. So with me watching the episode, I feel like he got into like a good 3 minutes in, and I'm still like, I need an explanation of what we're making here. But like, I know that's literally like just me who's like not knowing what it is.
When I lived in New York, I used to have Huevos Rancheros quite often as my choice when we were going for brunch, because I love eggs, I like Mexican food, why not? And so yeah, I was really excited to see a recipe for this, because it was all stuff that, unlike some of his Mexican recipes where you need very specific ingredients for it to really taste authentic, like I could see like, well, eggs are the same everywhere, like beans are pretty much the same, like I could make this work, like I can get chorizo, I can get, you know, it's fine, I can do this, we sell tostadas here, I can do that. So yeah, I was really excited by this, especially when, as I say, he said at the end you can just buy it all pre-packaged and just assemble it. So I was really pleased.
Well, yeah, and another thing he made in the episode was he made his own salsa.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm like, this is me going back to like, what is actually included in this? If we can get the beans from a can, if we making the salsa, like, what are we making? That was me, like, I was that gif of like the math signs over my face watching this episode.
I know what you mean, Justine, because at the end I was like, wait, so let's walk back. If you're having this for breakfast, at what point do you do stuff in the morning, and what stuff do you have to pre-prepare? Because am I getting up at 4 a.m. to do this? Like,
That was if you have to make the beans. I'm like, step 1 is set your alarm for 3 a.m. Step 2 is like, that's just too much effort for a breakfast dish.
I think you'd have to make it all like all the components pretty much ahead of time, apart from maybe the eggs, obviously, but they don't take long to fry. But yeah, I did have to. I was a bit like you at the end, Dusty. I was like, wait a minute. So, what bits are ahead of time, and what bits do I do in the morning?
That's why I think Huevos Rancheros is a great brunch dish in the sense of you go out to brunch and someone else makes it for you. That's definitely been when I've had Huevos Rancheros.
I mean, I'm a big fan of breakfast for dinner.
That's true. You could have it for dinner. Yeah, great. Well, we've solved the problem, everyone. It should be a dinner food.
Shout out to my husband's cousin, Eric, who had a gimmick Instagram account for years in which he made Huevos Rancheros every morning and took a picture of it. And it was called Huevos Rancheric, and I don't think it's in existence anymore, but I loved it.
Every morning.
That's great.
Every morning.
You ask him, did he pre-prepare things before? He can't have made
I'll
everything
ask him.
from scratch every morning. That's insane. If he did, I appreciate, respect to his dedication to the cause.
So I'm the weirdo who doesn't like eggs, but every single other component in this I thought looked amazing. I was like, so can I just do this and like give the egg to my husband and then I eat the rest? Like,
And just call it rancheros.
yes. I mean, because that's like if we go to a breakfast place or a brunch place, like sometimes I will get a meal and it has eggs with it just because it's like that's how you can get all of the other components together instead of ordering them a la carte. They're like, well, how would you like your eggs? And then I turn to my husband and I'm like,
my
Jeremy,
husband.
how would you like these eggs? And I'm like, just put those on the side and give them to him.
Well, I like my fried eggs exactly like Rick. That like crispy, frilly edge and the runny middle. Like that's exactly how I would cook a fried egg. Except, I have to say, never cooked it in lard. And I was like, Rick, stop. You are always taking it that step further, that little bit of extra something. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to buy a chunk of lard then, aren't I?
I think he cooked everything in this recipe in lard.
He like smothers himself in it, and then he's like, yeah, I'm ready. Come to daddy.
Once again, he gets very generous in his plating. I think that this has happened every single episode.
I enjoy it though. I enjoy the enthusiasm and the fact that his eyes are too big for his stomach.
He was getting ready to start eating it, and I forget the guy's name who films him, but he was like, this is why I eat before I start filming with you, because otherwise I get way too hungry.
That was funny. But I feel like I've learned that over the course of doing this season, because I can't sit down and like watch Rick episodes in particular whilst hungry, because he just makes everything look so good.
I finally learned that, and I actually made myself a burrito for lunch and sat down and watched the Rick videos.
Nice.
What did you think, Meg, of the Jamaica cocktail as our resident cocktail expert?
Yes, I thought the cocktail itself sounded nice. He combined the hibiscus syrup with mezcal and Cointreau, which is an orange-flavored triple sec. I thought that sounded like a very nice combo. You get the smokiness of the mezcal with the sweetness of the syrup. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of hibiscus for whatever reason. It's just a little bit sour, and I feel like that's kind of the only flavor it has is sourness, but I do think that would be complementary to the orange triple sec like he mentioned. So I would drink it. It's just not my favorite flavoring in the world.
Can you or anyone explain to me what the difference is between, like taste-wise, between mezcal and tequila? Because I hate tequila. I think it's because I drank too much of it as a teenager and wasn't very well. I've never been able to, like, even the smell. I'm like, nope. But everyone says, like, mezcal is different and that I should give mezcal a shot maybe. But what's the relationship? Are they related? Are they just completely different drinks? Or have I made that up?
No, they're definitely related. They're both made from agave plants.
Yes.
I believe I'm correct on that. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident in that. The biggest difference is that mezcal is very smoky. I would say that is the biggest difference is
like a whiskey, like a tequila whiskey.
like a whiskey, but I would say more literally smoky. Like, I feel
Okay.
like when you describe a whiskey as smoky, it's like, yeah, I can understand that flavor note. But mezcal is like, I'm sitting at a campfire and drinking tequila is like what
interesting.
mezcal tastes like.
Okay.
I really like it. I would say it is an acquired taste because it's strong, smoky flavor. But in a mixed drink, when that's not the only flavor you're getting, it's very nice.
Okay, I might look out for it on a cocktail menu and give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those liquors where it's like, try before you buy a whole bottle of
Oh,
mezcal.
yeah, always. I'm not going to waste money on a whole bottle of something I've never had before. That's insanity.
Oh, I've certainly done that. Anyway.
Okay, I looked it up. Tequila and mezcal are both agave, but tequila is usually produced by steaming the agave, whereas mezcal cooks the agave in earthen pits that are lined with rocks and wood and charcoal,
That would
and
make
also
sense,
sometimes
doesn't it?
put into clay pots. So it's a literal smoky
Yeah.
earthiness that comes from the production of the alcohol.
Interesting. Cool. Thanks, Meg.
You're welcome.
And today's letter was mezcal.
Go to whimsysoul.com to check out my cocktail recipes. End plug.
Okay, and now it's time for a commercial break. And we're back. And next up, we are talking about, you won't believe that they're vegan carnitas tacos. So we are joining, again, Food 52's resident sugarman, Rick Martinez, to work out and work up an appetite as he makes the best vegan carnitas. This taco boasts a ton of flavors and a melody of textures from the crispy garbanzos, meaty mushrooms, and sweet and spicy guajillos jam. This man makes vegan food taste amazing by the looks of things. I mean, a lot of vegan food is amazing. I don't know why I said that, but I particularly enjoy Rick's Mexican takes.
I don't know what to think about this video because on the one hand, it's one of my absolute favorites in terms of theme and silliness. I love the workout aerobic video. I love the pumping the cast iron skillets. Everything about it is hilarious. But I'm just going to make an assumption that there were huge technical difficulties behind the scenes in this episode because it's very short. It's under 7 minutes. And almost all of the recipe instruction is voiceover, which is unusual for this show. So I wondered if something happened in the making of it.
Oh my God, you're like Poirot. I was like, just taking it for what it is. I was like, yeah, 80s fitness motif. I love it. Woo-hoo. And just didn't think
I
beyond
had
that.
the same thought, especially with the voiceover. I was like, there must have been some issues with the sound because I've watched some of the other videos, not just the ones that we're covering for our show, but I've watched some other of the Sweet Heat videos, and very, very, very rarely is there any voiceover.
Wow.
It's usually actively Rick talking at the stove. So I was like, oh, like this is because I watched some other episodes this morning before I watched these two. So then it was very jarring. Like the whole workout stuff, not jarring. I was like, love this all. But then when the voiceover happened more than once, I was like, oh, what's happening to my show?
That's so interesting. I just didn't twig that at all. Maybe it's sleep deprivation, but I just in my head I was like, oh, they've gone for this like 80s fitness like gimmick, and what did they do in the 80s? They did like infomercials for like fitness equipment, and that's just why they've done it. But what you're saying would make sense. Maybe they worked backwards and were like, right, we've got no sound, how can we make this work? Yeah, I mean, they made it work, right?
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
I actually love the voiceover because I'm like, man, I'm getting a really clear idea of what's happening because it's concise words that have been written and I know what's happening.
Just seems like I understand where we're going here.
I feel like when he walks you through in the other episodes, the slower pace of him collecting his thoughts and not just reading from a script, I feel like for me, it's easier to follow because then you can be like, okay, this happens and then this happens, and I'm seeing what he's doing as he's describing it. Whereas this, it was like, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and it's all just one close-up of mushrooms. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's where I was too. But it makes sense to me that for Justine, it was like, this is all packaged very perfectly and succinctly.
I'm like, Best episode. It's short. I know what's happening. Here are the bullet points. Bam, I got it.
Well, it's also a very simple recipe, which is maybe one reason simply why it was a shorter video. There were not a lot of components. They're pretty easy to prepare, nothing too fussy about it.
He talked a little bit about his thought process when he thought about how to, because I guess he comes at vegan recipes or veganizing his recipes in a similar way, Justine, to when you get like a non-vegan recipe and you think, right, what's the best way to veganize it? And it was interesting to hear his thought process, because he was like, right, I need to get, a certain kind of texture, because I can't just go for like flavor. And it was just, he thought about like the crispiness, and he thought about like the unctuousness and the like umami stuff that you get from like meat. And so he went for the kind of chickpea mushroom combo, which looked amazing. Like you wouldn't miss. I mean, I just love mushrooms, so I just feel like you wouldn't miss the meat.
It's definitely a classic I've seen before, and I even think I think maybe Danny Trejo has got one of these in his vegan tacos in his restaurant. I was actually surprised though that he didn't add anything to them, so basically you're just getting the flavor of the chickpeas in the oil and the mushrooms as well, because normally I do see a lot of add like a teriyaki sauce or this kind of sauce, like that kind, the like sriracha, like a lot of like sort of there's the start of it, but then also like add some nutritional yeast to jazz it up a bit, which you could totally do. So I'm not quite 100% sure of like the flavor of these will just kind of be mushroomy instead of like you can add like smoke flavor to them. Like you can like additionally add more flavorings to this if you wanted to.
It does have the guajillo jam.
Yeah, that's true.
Which had a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, that was my thought too, is like I think he was trying to highlight his jam to kind of be the sort of sweet idea for this one.
The sweet and the heat. Yeah.
So Justine, as our resident vegan, is this a recipe that you would tackle?
Is this good?
Oh yeah, I would do this. It's very easy.
The hardest part looked like the chopping the mushrooms.
But then you have to growl and flex, and it makes it all easier.
The growling.
Every time he went, I was just like, I love this so much.
I love it.
Oh, what was he? Chop and smile. Chop and smile.
Next time I have to chop mushrooms, I'm doing that.
I did like what he was saying about texture. I feel like, in my opinion, some of the best vegan versions of other foods prioritize texture. Like jackfruit feels and looks and tastes like pulled pork because of the texture. It's like, this looks like pulled pork to me. Or heart of palm looks like fish because of the flakiness. So I like that he's approaching this from a texture standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as experienced with vegan dishes as Justine and even Meg as well. But when I have had them, I do think some of the reasons that when I don't like some of them, it's exactly that reason. They've just gone after like straight flavor rather than actually trying to replicate the other components that go into making something taste delicious.
Well, I mean, people should eat vegetables also. And I will say that I've had a variety of vegan tacos in terms of like if they have crumbles or whatever. The worst vegan taco I've ever had is like a meat made out of walnuts, like crumbled up walnuts, and then like literally tastes like dirt.
No.
When you try to go raw, I'm like, ugh.
No, yeah.
Cook it, please.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Like a meat taco, most of the ingredients are not raw, so why would you?
Yeah, even a potato taco.
Yeah,
Even a
I'm
potato.
just,
You'd never eat a raw
I'm so confused. Like,
No,
right, you wouldn't chop
Yeah,
up
I'm trying
just
to say, like, even at regular meat
Yeah.
style places, they will have, vegetable tacos.
Yeah,
which,
right.
yes, they are cooked.
Yeah, that's so confusing to me
That's
that it
weird.
was just like raw chopped walnut. Because like part of the point of a taco is you have like a cooked item in the taco that, and then you add like the fresh lettuce or something. I don't know. I'm just like, this confuses me.
I mean, I get it. I get it if you don't want to have something that's processed foods. But yeah. There's a balance. There's definitely a balance there.
Yeah, because vegan food can be so delicious. It's such a shame when it just doesn't quite hit the mark, right?
Same for every other food.
So this is going to be Amanda the novice time, but I truly did not know until this video that chickpeas and garbanzo beans were the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
The more you know.
I only know it because we just call them chickpeas in the UK. So whenever I see a US recipe and they're like garbanzo beans, I've had to be like, what the hell are they? And I'm like, oh, just chickpeas.
Because he called them both, he called it the same thing both times, and I was like, did he change the recipe?
No.
Like, truly, I got very confused, and I had to Google it, and I was like, they're the same thing!
Yeah,
hey! Now someone else listening just learned that fact.
It was short. It was sweet. I have minimal notes because of that.
We probably talked about it longer than the actual runtime of the video.
True.
Yeah.
So, you know, with the sound of Rick's grunts echoing in our ears, we're now going to see what's on our back burner today. Well, first on our back burner, I want to just highlight that, Justine, you've been really busy standing in line the past few weeks to get multiple chefs to sign various cookbooks. By my count, you've met Rick Martinez, no less, Jessie Sheehan, and another BA alumni, Andy Baraghani, who, you know, I think we've had Jessie and Rick as Reddit Talk guests. I think Andy should probably be a future Reddit Talk guest. But yeah, how was it, Justine? Were they all lovely?
Oh, yes. I do want to add to that, I was, you know, Molly Baz was there too.
Oh yeah, Molly!
In the room, but I didn't meet her. I mean, there was a lot of people, you know, and I didn't want to surf the crowd to just be like, hi.
You were in the same room, you know.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Rick is great. So these were all events through Now Serving, the Cookbook bookstore here in LA. Everybody's been releasing cookbooks, so they keep doing these in-person event meet and greet and book signing and panels, and they've been lovely. Like Rick's was my favorite because I don't know, it's Rick, and the way he talks about like his journey, not just of writing Mi Cocina, but like the self journey he was going on as well, of like really casting aside, you know, that word authentic and just being like, you know what, I gotta do me, you know, and it's very inspirational. He does write about it if you have the book. Yeah, and and he remembered me, which was cool because we had just did the Reddit talk like 2 days before, and I'm like, hi, it's me from the thing, and he's like, oh yeah, that was so much fun.
Oh my god.
And I was like, oh yeah, we could do it again sometime, or you could come on the podcast. He's like, oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my god.
We're gonna hold him to it.
How did you stop yourself from just like fainting right there?
He's just a person.
I'm like the worst. I should never be allowed to meet celebrities. I just can't get my shit together. I'm just so uncool. I always end up saying something stupid or just going really red. Like, I'm not allowed to meet celebrities. So, you know, I'm glad it was you and not me, because I would have just embarrassed us all.
Good thing we got LA expert over here, Justine, meeting the celebs.
Yeah. So the next, it was Jessie Sheehan. She didn't have a full panel, but just like a signing. And so I went down, you know, to Chinatown, just to be like, hi, I'll buy your book. And she's just like, oh my god. Again, I was like, hey, it's me from The Thing. And she's like, yes. And then she wrote in the book like, hi, Justine, so nice to meet you IRL. Aww. So that was so lovely of her.
Thanks, Jessie.
And again, she wants to do another Reddit talk again. She's like, yes, let's set that up. So
I love the Reddit talk.
Nice.
Just hooking them in. And she's so sweet. And then Andy Baraghani, what was that, like last week?
I don't know. You
He
were
had a big
there.
crowd. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Time is a concept.
He is definitely like in person, just like the shy boy, you know, like very soft spoken, very very soft spoken. And yeah, he was very excited. Like I was like, oh hey, I'm so excited to see you and Molly together again. He was just like I know. And he like lit up. He's like, it's going to be crazy. Like he was so excited to see Molly again and all that. And like talking about his book, he mentioned it's really simple. All the recipes in there, they're very pared down. Much more pared down than his BA recipes. And he's like, I really want people to cook from it. It's like, it's the most important thing that people like actually do it. And he has a lot of text in his book that he talked about of like all just concepts and thoughts. And he really wants people to learn from the cookbook as well. Not just have it, you know, but just learn a new thing. And that would make him happy, he said.
I really remember liking his recipes on the BA site, so I think I might check out his book.
Did you try to convince him that you had also talked to him before?
No.
And then he would have been like, yeah, totally, I remember.
Just kidding.
No.
You're not a psychopath.
That's exciting. I'm so pleased for you that you got to meet all of our, you know, lots of our favorite people.
Yeah, it makes me kind of bummed that I missed like Carla months ago, but that was like just too like pandemic-y times for me, you know. I had to work up to like going out.
I'm sure she'll do something again.
Yeah, you got to fill up your Bon Appetit Pokemon, got to catch 'em all roster.
That's right.
Your BA dance card, yeah. So also on our back burner, another thing that we wanted to mention was this week they held the James Beard Foundation Media Awards. And Justine, it was at your college, right?
Yes, it was at, I forget what the building is called because it didn't exist when I was there. So basically my tuition paid for it building is what I call it at Columbia College, Chicago.
Any notable winners?
Yeah, notable for sure. Top of our list is going to be Padma Lakshmi winning for visual media long form for Taste the Nation Holiday Edition, the one that we didn't watch.
Oh, well.
I wanted to mention one of the other winners. We haven't talked about her or this book previously on the podcast, but I do think it's worth mentioning because I really liked the book and I wanted to recommend it. But this won a James Beard Award for drinks without recipes. So the book is called Girly Drinks, A World History of Women and Alcohol by Mallory Omara. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It talks about the history of female distillers, drinkers, and brewers who have played a vital role in the creation and consumption of alcohol throughout history, from ancient Egypt to Prohibition to today. I think it's a really interesting book. I think it's a very feminist book. I'm obviously the drinks person around here, as previously discussed on this episode. I thought it was a very fascinating book, and I would highly recommend it.
I'm obviously the booze hound.
There was also another book that won that I know is on your cookbook bookshelf, as we'll discuss in a minute. The Korean vegan cookbook won for vegetable focused cooking.
Beautiful cookbook, beautiful recipes. I bought it recently, so I'll be honest, I haven't made anything from it yet, but mostly because she gives you this very helpful list of like, here are some pantry must-haves for making a lot of these recipes. And I was missing some of the things. So I wanted to get some, I think it was like black vinegar. I'm out of gochujang. So there's some things that I need to get before I can really dive into this book. It looks beautiful, though. I have dog-eared a lot of recipes in there that I want to make. And also, she has a very beautiful and active Instagram account where she posts a lot of her recipes as well.
Okay, guys. Well, we also have some shout-outs for this episode. So we mentioned it a minute ago, but you may possibly have also seen it in our pod feed. But if you were asleep 5 minutes ago and just have slept on our pod feed and missed both of those things, yes, the rumors are true. Yes, since our last recording, we did indeed host a Reddit talk with none other than the subject of this current season of Pod Appétit, Rick Martinez. And really, honestly, I don't think any of us can still believe that it happened because, I mean, we're massive fans. So obviously we just wanted to shout out to Rick for being such a good guest. And please do give that episode a listen if you haven't already. Also, shout out to some of our lovely listeners. So on Instagram, Meg's breakfast omni pork musabi got a lot of love. And Small Bites _2 wants to try the omni pork. And Pineapple Sons can't wait for omni pork to become available in Chicago.
I think you could probably find it in your local, I want to say health food store. I feel like that's a very outdated term. What do they call the Whole Foods of today? Anyway, I think that's probably where you could find it. But as the name suggests, I'm sure Omnipork will be everywhere soon enough.
Omnipork reigns supreme.
All hail the Omnipork.
Oh dear, and I for one welcome our Omnipork overlords. Anyway, talking of love on Instagram, Justine, your hummus also went down well, especially with Doogie448 and Summer's Rising, among others, commenting on how great it looked. So congrats on your hummus.
Thanks. It's pretty just because I copied Erin Gleeson's picture. That's how you do Instagram. Just they already did the work for you. Just copy what they're doing, and then someday you'll have your own original ideas.
Erin Gleeson of the Forest Feast, yet another of our Reddit Talk guests.
Yeah. We also celebrated National Strawberries and Cream Day, a day very close to my heart, which I am just concerned that it happens before Wimbledon starts, because that to me does not compute, but never mind. But Jen Owens...
Just British things.
Just me being British.
Yeah.
Soz. So Jen Owens thanked us for our public service by keeping everyone abreast of the most delicious holidays, and it is very much our pleasure to do that. That's what we're here for, amongst other things. And finally, we posted some anonymous shelfies of our cookbook shelves and asked our followers to guess whose shelf was whose. And Ravenel, Margaret, and Kirsty all got it right, because apparently my River Cottage and Nigella books mean that I'm basically just telling everyone I'm British without telling everyone that I'm British. And all Justine's books...
You have like 50 million Nigella books on there.
Yeah, okay, like if you cut me open, I bleed like the Union Jack. What can I tell you? And all Justine's books are vegan, so I guess we just have really strong personal brands. Okay, and it's completely
I thought
obvious.
maybe my Mary Berry cookbook and my Korean vegan cookbook might throw people off a little bit, but
No.
Justine also has a million vegan cookbooks, just like LJ has a million Nigella cookbooks, so it was not much of a red herring.
No, you were right. We are who we are.
I'm really glad my brand is I do not have a cookbook shelf.
We should have taken a picture of an empty shelf. That would have been funny.
That would have been really funny. Okay, so thanks for getting in touch with us on social media and sharing what you thought of our episodes. And we still don't have a review to share with you. If you want to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we would be, we'd surely love to receive it, and we would read it out on the show. But in the meantime, don't forget, we've got a heck of a lot of merch available for you to pick up if you want, a t-shirt, a mug. I mean, I can't remember. There's so much stuff that we have on our Threadless site. That's podappetit.threadless.com. So thank you for joining us this week. Next time on the podcast, we will be doing our season digest of All Things Sweet Heat with Rick Martinez and saying goodbye to the show.
Goodbye. See you next time. Hey.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appétit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
We all love the love story. We pretty much all have a crush on the hero. But what makes the story just so good? What about the woman? Deconstructing Damsels is a podcast all about romance books and why the heroine rocks. The podcast is available on most podcatchers. It's hosted by me, Jessica Hannon, with the occasional guest, and every episode features a different book and heroine. I'll see you guys